Really appreciate everyone's time today. So we're going to keep the schedule right on time to respect your time. So this is going to be a highly interactive event. My name is Lucas Chaffee, and I'm joined with Katie Trazo. Katie, if you can say hi and wave your hand so people can see you. Katie is our Chief Community Officer, and she's the one who's reached out to all the fabulous presenters that we have today and organized the agenda, managed all the communications, so this would not even have happened remotely without Katie's tremendous help. We also want to thank our sponsors and partners. We've got the National Coalition for Dialogue and Deliberation, who helped us spread the word. We got a lot of people here who are into group process and facilitation. We've got a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, researchers. We've got folks that work in government, folks that work in nonprofit. It's going to be a great mix of a lot of people today and a lot of ideas. We also have the CivicTech Field Guide. Matt Stempek has done a tremendous job organizing that. Some foundations have funded it. It is the basis. Thank you. And I'll go ahead and mute you for a moment there, right there, Dee. So when you're on a call, please do mute yourself just in case that happens. And we have to be okay with that. There are going to be disruptions, and it's all accidental. My phone might ring here too. So today we're all in each other's own space. So our lives are brought into this space. So it makes it a little more personal and interesting. So I want to say the CivicTech Field Guide has done tremendous work in finding hundreds of organizations that do civic tech. And what is civic tech? The definition that I'm using now, it's people that use tools and methods to solve public problems. And we try to keep it broad so that we can have as many different types of folks bringing their skills to the table. And often we'll be working on the same problem from different angles, and we don't even know that each other exists. So today, it's just an opportunity to see what's out there and help people connect. So the CivicTech Field Guide has gathered hundreds of organizations, and we've turned that into this conference. We want to make the live version of the CivicTech Field Guide and build upon that. And we'll talk about what will be here after this conference ends, because we want to keep everybody connected if you wish to be. And also the CivicTech Code School, that's something that I teach. Also a partner here, it's how you can become a developer and build tools in civic tech if that's something you want to do. Previously, I was in the military and then transitioned into civic tech by becoming a software developer. So I love helping people make that same transition. So we got 32 folks here from all across the world, and I just want to pause for a moment and let everyone think, reconnect with, why are you here today? Why are you drawn to these topics? What originally got you inspired to work on what you're doing, to join the organization that you joined, to start the projects that you're working on? Just reconnect with that purpose just for a moment. It's important. These are public problems, and we're all drawn to them for different reasons. And I hope that you can share some of those reasons through your conversations that'll happen in all the breakout sessions today. So today, we're in the main table right now, and there's going to be 15 different breakout sessions, and there's 3 rounds of those sessions. I'll show you how that's going to work. I'm going to share my screen in Zoom right now. This will be a brief orientation, and we'll take any questions you might have. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you could see we're all here at the main table, and some people are already out at the breakout tables. When you click the red button, that's how you join Zoom. That's how you got here. On the right-hand side are all the notes for that table. So I'm going to be here the whole time at the main table. If you have any questions, you'll be able to find me or Katie. If you have other questions, take a look at the notes here. It tells you that there's some tech support info below. So you can scroll down on the notes page. It might be a little hard because Zoom right now is in front, so you can't see your page. So I'll stop screen sharing in a moment, and that'll be a little easier. You can add your info to who is here today so everyone can get a sense. So we can see here are some of the people that are present now. And please take some time to add your name and organization there. You've got the live chat down here where Katie will be responding to any questions you have, and I'll be jumping in there too. And there's some other options for tech support if you need them at any time. There's even a phone number to call. To move to a breakout session, here are the instructions, but I'm going to go over it very quickly. So in a moment, I'm going to put the session topics in all the tables, and you're going to say, oh, I wanted to go to table 5 because it's talking about a specific topic. So you'll click on that button for table 5, and your screen is going to refresh, and it's going to say, remember to join the video right here. So you click on that red button, and it's going to take you out of the main room where you are in Zoom. So you're going to lose me here, and then you're going to be transported into the new Zoom meeting. On the right-hand side, you have notes for that table. So all the different tables have notes, and all the different tables have their own separate breakout sessions. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right. And
so you said that I'm sorry, Lucas, you said that there are separate breakout sessions for each individual table itself. Was that correct?
Yes, you will see all the topics. I'm going to post them, and you'll see them all very clearly. It'll be clear when we're about to break out.
Okay.
So we don't see them now, right?
Exactly. You just see table 4, 5, 6, because I want everyone to know that what's happening is happening right now in the main table. Okay.
Lucas, Prabhu here. In making the notes, will the table host make the notes, or anyone in that group can make the notes?
Great question. So right here in the ground rules, I invite you to help people feel comfortable. So this is a new experience for many people. Katie and I, there are only 2 people, but there's going to be over 100 participants today. So please help each other out. And one of those ways is to be collaborative and help take notes during the presentation. So when the presenter is talking, everyone has access to that Google Doc, unless you get over 50 people. If you get over 50 people, which we're not having a problem with, then some people will not be able to edit it. But yes, please do take notes in the Google Doc where someone else is speaking. Someone else can be taking notes for them.
Thank you.
These great question, Prabhu. And I'll mention Prabhu's joining us from Singapore today, staying up way late into the evening, going above and beyond the call of duty. We will take all of the notes that you share, and we will share them back out with all the participants who joined today and anyone else who could not join today. So anything you'd like to share with a larger audience, please do put in the notes. And please end your session on time. This is a note for all the presenters, and anyone who's tech savvy, please help the presenters figure this out, because it might be a little bit complex for them. So in each of these tables, there's going to be one session in round 1, and then a 5-minute break. And during that 5-minute break, I ask that you close the Zoom meeting out as the presenter. You'll be prompted, do you want to end the presentation for everybody? And yes, you do. Because when you do that, the next administrator will be able to come in here, admin controls, and then the next person that is going to host the next session would click join as host. And that will give them the ability to record if they want to record. If you record your session, it will be stored on your computer. And after this whole event, there will be a way for you to upload that to Google Drive, and we will share the recordings of your events with everyone else. If you have any questions about that, you can ask me how to do that. I will be in the main table after this happens. Any other questions on how the technology is going to run today?
Do the hosts for each table have the ability to share their screens?
Everyone, including participants, has the ability to share their screen.
Okay, and that'll be obvious when we start, because like right now I don't see how to share my screen during this main table.
Exactly. When I'll stop sharing my screen here, and then if you mouse over Zoom, at the bottom you can see a green share button, and that's how you can share your screen.
Okay, and then when we're in the individual breakouts or the individual tables, that's what we're going to see. We're going to be able to mouse down here and see this red share button.
You will see that green share button.
Green share button. Colorblind.
Next to it is the record button. So if you are the presenter, if you're the host, you can record. Otherwise, you're going to get a message that says only the host can record. So if you have any questions, you can ask Katie or myself.
Thanks.
As these things are happening, we'll be there for 3 hours. Okay, any additional questions about how the technology will work today?
All right, quick question. I just wanted to ask, do we have the timer, the yellow timer on that video telling us what time we finish, or how do we go about it?
Great question. This timer over here is going to tell you when the session ends, and everybody will see the same timer across all the breakout spaces. You may also see some notifications if you're looking. I will say 5 min. So I can send these messages out and you'll see them in this format, and that'll just give you a little bit of notice.
All right, okay, thank you.
Yep, so there's the timer right there, and that'll be turned on once we begin. There's some other helpful links at the top of the page. FAQ for presenters. If you cannot remember how to share your screen or how to record, there's instructions in there. The hashtag for today is posted, CivicTech Live. And if you want to stay connected after this event, you can join the Civic Innovation community on Slack. That is combined with what we're doing here today. That is the Slack community, which will help keep us connected between now and the next live event. All right, so we're going to do something called 1, 2, 4 all. It's a very interactive way for people to answer a question. You're going to get a chance to think about this question as an individual, and then you'll pair up, and then you'll be put in a group of 4. So the question today is posted on the homepage there where you see all the notes. And it's, what are the top 2 challenges preventing the civic tech community from reaching its full potential? So I'd like you to take 1 minute. We're all going to stay right here, and we'll stay muted, and think about the answer to that question. You will then be paired up, and you will be put in a group of 4. So take 1 minute and just think, what are the top 2 challenges preventing the civic tech community from reaching its full potential? All right, now what we're going to do is going to get a chance to pair up. So M. Fiddleman, I just muted you just so there was no feedback sound bouncing back and forth. So now you're going to get a chance to pair up. If you look at the QiqoChat page, and this might be a little complicated for folks that don't feel too comfortable having so many things on their screen, but on the left-hand side of QiqoChat, it says you now have the opportunity to join a new breakout table. And when you go there, there will be one other person. It's possible that other person will not arrive. And you'll take...
Okay, I'm not looking, I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing.
If you don't see it, that's okay. You'll just stay here with me.
Okay.
All right, so on the left-hand side, it says you can jump to a new table. You have, if Zoom is in the way, you have to move Zoom off to the side to look at your browser. And then you're going to be paired up. After this countdown ends, you're going to be paired up in groups of 4. So all the people, there's about 20 people that are still here with me in the main table. If you want to join your partner over there, you'll discuss the answers to your questions, and then the 2 of you will come up with 2 answers. So each of you has 2, and you'll just agree on what are 2 top challenges to civic tech. So if anyone doesn't see the place where they can go pair off, just move Zoom out of the way, and you'll see it says you've got a new table assignment on the left-hand side. And if you don't see that, that's okay. You can just stay here. This is the first time we've ever done this, and it seems great because almost everybody's been able to jump over there. On the people that have come in late, you're just going to stay here at the main table with us. I'm sending them instructions for what they're supposed to be doing. So right now they're discussing their challenges that they see, and then they're going to come to agreement on what are, out of the four challenges that each of them has, together they have 4, they have to come to consensus on what are the 2 that they want to bring to the next group.
Okay. Direct. Okay.
Originally, everything was on one screen. So when you switched back, I think we had to do multi-screens at the same time. Is that correct?
It is a little complicated.
Okay.
Going to the breakout session is going to be easier than this.
Okay. That's what happened to me, is that I could tell what you were trying to instruct us to do. You wanted us to go back into a different screen, but by the time I figured that out, it was too late.
Well, you could do that now, because right now everyone is heading to a group of 4.
So it looks like on my screen, do you want me to I could share my screen and show you how it's displaying, if that would.
No, it's okay.
Okay, because it's actually just showing your top notes. It's not actually, I'm not sure if that's where we were intended to participate.
You could just stay right here in the main area.
Okay.
You know, while we're here, so we have 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes till everybody's going to rejoin us. It's Elisa, is it?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
What were the answers to the question that you came up with?
Oh, as far as the main obstacles, I think it's the lack of coordination, the lack of communication, and like the lack of understanding about what's out there. And I think you're helping to address that.
Glad to hear. Allison and Dee and Steve, you're welcome to chime in with your answers to that question. What are the 2 main obstacles preventing CivicTech from reaching its full potential?
Hi, Lucas, it's Steve. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm driving, and that's why I am just kind of listening.
Okay.
But I did, before I hopped in the car, I did put in my little thing right under on the dock there saying that it's the cat. It's consistent with what you and Elisa are saying, which I think is that the cat herders are resisting being herded just as much as the cats. So, and that's what you're trying to do. So, Lucas, I think you're trying to herd the cat herders, and the natural reluctance to be herded into a community of practice that's the dilemma. And once we can do that, we can solve all kinds of other things. But until that happens, we're all kind of fragmented. So
thanks for joining us today, Steve.
Okay, I'll just mute myself and listen in. Thanks.
We'll make sure we get that when you arrive to your destination. There's a place where you can add that into the Google Doc. Dee and Allison, would you like to chime in with anything?
field guide, and one of my goals with it is to get into all these classes about social innovation tech and sort of show people that there's a field here, and
Cool.
ideally get them in the field, or at least expose them to it.
Yeah. Sweet.
I think
You're very quiet, Matt. I can hardly hear you.
Oh, sorry. I'm using a mic because my Surface microphone's not very good. I'm getting a notification that it's time to rejoin the main table.
Oh, just when I got this one set up.
Right? We needed longer to chat.
You'll notice that I've cleverly got live captioning going on in this in my window here.
Oh, cool. Is that the new Google live caption, or?
I use web captioner, yeah, but it is the Google Translate API.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna go to. I think I'm going to the main table, so I think we're about to.
Okay.
Good meeting you.
Yeah, you too. Okay.
Your page. If you don't see it, if you don't see it.
No, I see a list of lots of Google Docs. I see an outline that starts with the agenda, and it's marked now read only. Oh, wait a minute. It's in a different window.
That's right.
Because I think there was a Google Doc that was shared as an agenda. That's a separate Google Doc if somebody's in Google, and you're talking about the one that appears in the Kiko window, correct?
Well,
okay.
We're gonna just make sure that we stay on schedule. Harvesting these ideas can happen for the next 2.5 hours. So I'm gonna remain here at the main table, and I'm gonna help everyone get to their sessions on time. You came to watch specific sessions. So as you're doing that, I'm gonna set the topics for all the breakout spaces. And on the left-hand side, you will see tables 1 through 15 are going to get, now they have their titles. So those sessions are beginning now. Presenters might want to give people 5 minutes to get settled over there. So presenters are welcome to go over there and begin their session. For people that are not yet familiar with what's going on, I'm going to remain right here and help you get oriented. So these sessions are going to last 40 minutes with 5 minutes in between. So 3 rounds of 40-minute presentations, 5 minutes in between. And it's important to think about the law of 2 clicks. If you find that this session is not for you, it's not rude to move yourself to another session. That's 100% okay and encouraged. There's people in other sessions who will want to hear from you. So it's excellent. If you don't feel yourself contributing or learning where you are, please click to another breakout table and join right there. Remember, the ground rules are to help people feel comfortable because this is new for many people. And We don't have to get everything 100% right. We're going to do our best today to help you get into the conversations that you want to get connected to. So breakout tables are posted on the left-hand side of the screen. People can go there now. If you could still hear my voice and you're in a breakout table, remember to click the red button for that breakout table. That's going to open up your video chat for that breakout table. And if this doesn't make sense, no problem. It's going to all make sense when I can show it to you. For people that are still here, I'm going to share my screen and show you what I can see, and that'll help you get oriented too. And then I'll take questions from everyone. So this is the page that lists all the breakout sessions right here. You find the one that you want to go to. So if I want to go to table 7, I'll click on table 7, and the page is going to refresh. And then go back down to table 7 and click the red button. It's going to say, remember to join video. Once you join video, then you're going to be removed from this video chat where you can hear me right now. We're at the main table, and you're going to be transported over to table 7. This takes a little bit of getting used to in the beginning, but I'm sure that everyone's going to get there because we'll patiently help you get where you need to go. So let me take questions from anybody that's still here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We have 18 folks still at the main table. So if you could hear my voice, you're at the main table. And if you're trying to get to a breakout table, it's pretty easy. Just look at the web page that lists all the breakout tables and click on the one that you want to join. And once you click on the breakout table, you'll see a red button to join video. And when you click that red button, you're going to be taken to that video chat over there. Good, so we're whittling it down. Only 11 people left. So we got a few folks. Please feel free to ask me any questions right now. There's only about 7 folks that are probably trying to get to a breakout session. So.
Now, Lucas, so I thought I'd clicked on a table and then I have another click to do apparently.
Exactly. Scroll down on the left-hand side and you'll see a red button that says join video.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you later.
Bye.
So Alternative UK, B. Mallory, and Deb, you're welcome to. Oh, Deb, welcome. I recognize your name. Steve is on the road, so I know he'll just be here with us.
We're just doing introductions at the moment. And once a few more people have joined us, we'll actually get into the topic. Can you hear us? I can see typing. I'll have to enlarge that. Right. Okay. Right. That's okay. So, and right now, I have been given the task with a group of volunteers to find ways of getting people sitting at home involved in a conference of a political party, or indeed any organizations where you actually make decisions by voting at the conference. And so we're looking for all the different ways to improve engagement beyond the few people who can afford to come to a conference. Okay, Bentley, you want to say something about yourself?
Sure. I'm Bentley Davis. I'm founder of Reason Score, one of the kind of potential ways of large groups making decisions. That's why I found this group interesting. And I've been working on group kind of decision making and understanding for about 7 years now. And I'm mostly a software developer. So that's my hammer. So everything looks like a nail that needs software development. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Jolly. I'm with the Internet Society, and my role here today is that I'm actually sort of live streaming the conference, and so I had to cherry pick one to go to, and so I have to warn you that you are actually being live streamed at this moment as well as being in this space. I hope that's okay. You'll also see that one device I'm using is to run the audio through the Google Translate API. So that's how come you can see text coming up in that other window right now.
Awesome.
And I will say that my peculiar interest is that I work with the Internet Society, and so we're very much involved in internet governance forums, which is where there's a global one, and there are also local, national, and regional IGFs. So these are not so much voting procedures, they're more kind of discussion things, but I'm very, in terms of internet governance, I'm very interested, a lot of it does take place online, so I'm very interested in this topic. You're muted, David. There you go.
Right. Okay. I'll just give you a little bit of background as to why I set up this session. And then we can go and think of all the different things we might do when we want to get lots of people involved in a conference. Now, why isn't it picking me up? You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah, there's a bit of static on your mic.
Let's try doing something with my audio. Just a minute.
Probably just a dodgy cable or something.
Try again. Is that any better?
That's a little worse.
Could be a phone. Could be a phone.
Actually,
phone close to your. Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah.
Sounds
right.
like
any better now?
No, it's like phone interference or something.
All
Is your
right.
phone on your desk next to you? Oh.
Yeah, I'll just. Oh, I was going to say.
Anyway, you could keep going.
Well, I'll just see if that do some better. Okay, so move that further away.
Yes.
Right, let's hope that works. It was just that when I started talking, your picture still is the one on top. So.
Yeah, I think if you're when you're talking, it usually still leaves the last person talking.
Right. Okay.
Unless you specifically highlight yourself.
It's a setting that you can actually change in settings.
Okay. Right. Okay. In June this year, there'll be one of the many Green Party conferences here in England. Like a number of political parties and indeed some other organizations, we have sessions of various kinds. And what we're hoping to do is try some small scale experiments to try different types of engagement that will involve people who can't afford to come to the conference. And the big thing is we want to make sure that members who are following on a live stream of what's going on in a big conference session can also vote on the motions and amendments in the conference. Because the Green Party, actually all its policies are decided by members at the conference. It's not done by a small group of people like in some other parties. And similarly, decisions about what to campaign on next year and so on are made by these decisions. So we're looking at ways to start with of making it possible for someone outside the conference to follow what's going on, listen to the debate, perhaps, and actually vote and show people what their feelings are. And then in the conference, they'll see the results of the votes. We're also interested in seeing things which can help the sort of discussions like the Internet Society does, because you really actually need a debate and people understanding things. And we might even end up trying some of the tools that are used in schools for getting open-ended questions, electronic brainstorming, and so on. And in the long term, we might want to change the whole decision-making process from the current way, which was actually based on Robert's Rules for Parliament from the 19th century. So how do we open things up so that people can constructively contribute, even though they haven't made all their way to Scarborough?
I think there's quite a few tools that can do that, like QiqoChat, as far as opening it up to outside people with the video and audio. There's a couple of voting systems. I mean, I think I like Lumio. I don't know if you've looked into that yet. They're pretty popular, so you've probably heard of it. I haven't worked with any of them to see how good they are as far as moderation. Like, so if you're talking about what, thousands of people, or do you have an idea?
200 people inside, 800 outside.
Yeah, so right at about 1,000 people. So at that scale, you need some definitely need some moderating tools, or a system organized to be able to handle that scale, just in design and user interface. I don't know of any off the top of my head, but I'd be happy to search for that. And then you'll need some sort of, regular video streaming service, just to make sure that they can consume it, and then something to facilitate the conversation. There's several tools that kind of fit that. When I want to challenge a couple of your assumptions, like that, when doing a decision that that voting would be the only method. There's other methods to do decision-making process. There's not a lot, but voting is kind of the most common, but isn't the only one that's available. But that would be further down the line, because if you still want to do brainstorming, there's a lot of good tools for that. But the actual deciding on a proposal, there's several ways other than just voting. Anyways, so we could go more into that, but I know there's a lot of tools that before this process, it'd probably be good to spend some time reviewing each of them and seeing, and making a sheet of what you need as far as moderating tools to handle that many people and how you want the brainstorming to happen, and then have to go through all the tools and see which ones fit that your needs best, which would be kind of challenging.
Okay.
I'll speak up. Google made a thing that was, I can't remember what it was called, the Google something, where you could vote questions up and down, and for some reason it was great, and for some reason they got rid of it. And the thing which I notice people using right now is, and it's not a free tool, is a thing called Slido, SLI.do, which was made by a guy in Slovenia, and he originally made it as a thing where you could share slides at conferences, and on the side he built a thing, well, here's a little thing where you can ask questions and vote questions up and down, and you can make polls. And the fact is, everybody uses it for that. Nobody uses it to share slides, because everybody's always live streaming, the things. And so I've noticed that growing to be the sort of default tool that people use to poll their remote audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy because you can put it on your phone. It works really easily. It works on the web. It works cross-platform.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, carry on.
To see a list of tools like that, there's a meeting later on today in this thing at golly, what's the tool? They have a pretty darn good list. I think it's competing with mine. I'll find it and mention it when I find it.
Okay. In the meantime, whilst you're looking for tools, and we'll come back to that, how about use cases? Different ways people outside and inside a conference might interact, not necessarily just the voting. Can you have got any suggestions for that?
Well, I know Lucas has done a lot with QiqoChat. Of course, that's mostly all online, so that's not mixing an online group.
I mean, also it could be just online, because there's nothing to stop us having some conferences online and some face-to-face.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know if he's written up any post-event like descriptions of what was learned and stuff like that. Trying to think of any other places where I've seen use cases. I guess
I'll ask a question, which is, are you familiar with the Gov thing in Taiwan, the G0V, where they've thought through a lot of these things and have certain tools that they've practiced using?
I've actually was at one of their presentations at the cooperative platform cooperative conference in London, but I haven't looked at all their tools and all the things they've done. No. So any particular ones you think might be relevant?
I'd have to go back, because I streamed a thing that they did where they came to New York and did a whole demo of it, and now it's about a year ago, and my mind is kind of like, you know, it's water under the bridge. It's disappeared. I'd have to go back and look it up. But just to change off topic, I videoed a business conference, and they had the guy who was the strategic guy from Trello get up and speak, and he told an anecdote about Trello, which is that they have a system whereby they call it is one remote, all remote, because what they found is that in any meeting, the remote people are always at a disadvantage. So if they have a meeting and anybody is remote, they all go back to their desk and they all get on their computers, so everybody is remote. And that's the way they keep equilibrium.
I actually find when we've had local meetings, we've had to do it separately. Although if you actually have small groups who go off and do things face to face and then report back, you could actually have distributed conversations like that.
We've done that with remote breakouts at some of our events, and that's worked fine.
Did you use any?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go on.
I was going to say that it's CivicTech.guide. Is CivicTech field guide would have a list of a lot of the tools out there, and same thing like mentioned about G0V is that what's great about them is I don't think they develop any of their own tools. I was watching a presentation they did, and they're kind of trying to use the tools that are already out there, and I think they do kind of talk about it. So I would do more kind of YouTube and blog research on them. Would be a great thing to see someone who's used some use cases of the tools, and maybe even Participedia.org. Is it .org? I know they have use cases in there too. Is it Participedia.net?
Okay.
Yeah, Participedia.net. I think they have use cases in there.
One thing that I like, when we have these meetings, we have internet governance meetings where we have 15 tracks. And what's really good is if you can have some form of text transcription going on, and then at least you can you can kind of have a browser open and be following multiple tracks, and you can see, you know, if someone's, you know, said something interesting, you can search on keywords and go back and find, you know, so those kind of things. Text transcription is not just for people who can't, you know, who can't hear. It's a very useful tool all around for, I think, participation, especially in multi-track conferences.
And what would you just use a Twitter wall for that, or a document like we're doing now, or argument maps, or?
Well, you know, there's more stuff to be built. It's a developing, you know, the AI is, as you can see now on this thing here, you know, the AI is just about getting good enough, if you have the right accent, that is, you know, that you don't need physical stenographers. And if you, you know, and so the technology is still arriving where you could say, search for, you know, go back and search for a word at a conference and pick up, you know, and pick up, you know, go back and watch that bit of video of what was said there, or audio, which would be useful, because, you know, a lot of the, you know, the time is like you just can't, you know, be in the right place at the same time. Where in this room, something might be happening in another room, which is very much what we want to know about.
Right. Yeah. Yes. 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 Anything that saves having to have teams picking up issues. I don't know if you ever came across the America Speaks 21st Century Town meetings, where they had 600 tables of 10 people all discussing what to do with the Twin Tower site, and someone taking notes on a computer on each table, another group of people finding out things in common from the different tables. And that the technology now to do that is much cheaper, but of course the human bit of finding the commonalities is still hard.
Although they're AI is starting to be able to pick that up. I've seen several tools that are doing a really good job of, and actually there's one tool where that I know of, a project where they're building that, where everyone just kind of puts in their own opinion on the topic, and then it finds commonalities between there and kind of rolls them up and categorizes them and builds a diagram off of it. It's really interesting stuff.
What's the name of that? Do you know?
It might be Internet Government. Let me we'll look it up.
You know, what was interesting was when the guy from Taiwan spoke, his inspiration for setting the whole thing up was the IETF, which is, you know, an internet society group where the internet has been, you know, the system of consensus and multi-stakeholderism. At IETF meetings, people hum to like show consensus.
Yes.
I guess that's Digital Peace Talks. Let's see if I can find a link to his website. It's pretty nascent, but that's exactly what he's working on. I'll find a link and I'll put it in the notes.
All right. Yes. On the question about why voting and other things voting, I'm just going to show you a diagram. Just a minute. If I can find it. That's the right one. Because it's going to be easier to explain than talking. Right. Share screen. Okay. If you can see a diagram in front of you, this is a model for problem solving that is also based on theories of how people learn. And the bit that we come down to voting on things is the third stage. Initially, someone says, here's a problem, what are we going to do about it? And that's just a matter of basically collecting information, talking to lots of people, communicating, sharing information. Then you have to need to explore the problem and come up with possible solutions. And that needs a group who actually produce a shared mental model of that. Then you can go on to things like a de Border preferendum, where you rank half a dozen options to find one which everyone will compromise on. One of the bad things about yes-no voting is that they're rather easy to manipulate. By changing the order of things, you can get the outcome you want. And then the final stage is actually this becoming part of the practical activity of every person involved. Now, a long-term idea is to actually change decision-making in a political party to have the best tools and the best ways of getting people together for each of those stages. Have I completely confused everyone, or?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to dig up my old Taiwan thing to find out the tools they were using. But, I'm kind of distracted.
Okay.
We're both doing it. He's researching too.
Yeah. But I mean that makes sense. That's kind of the standard kind of process, and like you say, it's often not formalized in political parties or other groups, and even without being formal, it's not organized or structured. And having tools in place, or a tool to do all that, would increase the efficiency, would increase people's the inclusion of everybody in that decision-making process if it's a massive tool. And that does remind me also of the internet government, which I think that their process includes all of those steps. And my tool, Reason Score, would be in that stage 3, where you're evaluating choices. Mine's a very narrow project of that project, so that would be another one to look at. And I'll add, I know the founder of that organization as well.
Okay, if you leave a note of that one as well, we can follow it up later. Yes, you see, if you have systems designed to work with paper and with face-to-face meetings, then the second stage tends to be a little clique who's got the time to work on putting together some proposal. And then the third stage tends to be yes-no votes with big arguments and cabals saying we should vote this way or you should vote that way. And we're trying to get away from both those forms of both of those distortions into finding better solutions. I'll just stop sharing the screen, and because we've just got someone joined us. So welcome to Just Jamie Joyce.
Oh.
Thank you.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just fiddling with my microphone.
No, that's okay. To give an incredibly quick recap, what we're talking about is the different ways to get lots of people who can't get to a conference to participate in things like making decisions on what the organization is going to do in the next year or what its policies should be.
Yeah, and Jamie, I just mentioned internet government as an example of a process that covers. David was just showing the standard kind of 4 stages of brainstorming, making proposals, deciding on the proposals, then enacting them. I was just mentioning that internet government kind of covers all of that in your process,
right.
I think. So that might be a good example for him on what he's trying to do in a political party. And I don't know if you're thinking of internet government, it's only handling its own specific ideas, so it wouldn't be a tool that other people would use in their own governance, or what?
Well, I'll just first let you know that I'm still having trouble hearing a little bit, but I think I caught most of what you said, Bentley. And I did also catch that graphic that had those stages laid out just after I joined. For the internet government, it would be software that it would be both software and a model that other people could use. So I'm not sure what the particular licensing strategy we're going to use, if it's just going to be open source, if it's going to be Creative Commons or what have you. But it is something that is a method and a model that we want to enable and empower other people to have access to solve problems in the same way.
Okay, cool.
Just right now for our purposes in our targeted goals in the United States, we're just focusing on development and branding and messaging and all of those things. So it seems kind of proprietary and not as inclusive, but our long-term goals is to empower everyone with access to the technology and the method so that they can also solve problems at scale. And thanks for mentioning it.
Yeah, I added it as a link to the notes for this round, this table.
Cool.
Okay. Right. Okay. Jamie, do you want to add anything to that? I mean, you've just joined us, so what would you suggest?
What would I suggest as a
range of things that you might do to get members of a party or cooperative or whatever bit more involved in their conferences, even if they can't get there?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the accessibility of technology allows for amazing mass communication. So at least from the perspective of the internet government, I think that the very nature of conferences may change over time. Like, even if people aren't able to physically relocate to a place, that doesn't mean that they can't exchange ideas and there'd be a formal process for some sort of presentation happening and people responding to it. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, I think that, you know, technology not only enables digital conferences such as something like this, these chats, but it can also fundamentally change the way we communicate at scale. So different parties, constituents, representatives, they can all engage in, mass communication with each other and mass exchange of information through new technological platforms, which is one of the goals of the internet government, is to enable the exchange of ideas without it being limited to existing either digital or physical infrastructures and institutions.
Okay. And you're talking about exchanges of ideas. Would that also be including mapping those ideas or modeling to try, how do you make sure that people understand what you're saying the same way?
Right, yeah, so that's actually a really important part of the internet government's whole method. It's about collecting information, enabling the exchange through information being hosted on a platform, like it being mapped out. So by mapping that information and inputting it into either a visual interface or a knowledge graph or various other structures, people can engage with the information and that they can add to it, they can question it, they can navigate through a larger database of it. So by exchange, it almost is just like the central focal point through which everyone can access information and also add and inquire more about the information that's being presented. So, I mean, I'm talking about also fundamentally changing communication in a way. Routing information through infrastructure so that at mass we can participate, and we don't need to exchange directly with one another, but in inputting information, extracting conclusions, questioning, on and on, which depends on the interface, we can exchange ideas without needing to have direct person-to-person communication.
And which bits of those can we do now?
Well, is it with the internet government, or are you talking about?
I mean, the total thing you're talking about probably isn't all there, but I presume there are tools or ways of working that we can do bits of that right now.
Right. I mean, so where we're at with the internet government right now is there's certain parts and pieces of the methods that we're kind of breaking off and hacking it together. So as we speak, some of our volunteers are together and doing outreach where they're soliciting responses from experts of a particular subject that we're dealing with currently. and they're strategically collecting that information to then be put into an interface. And I just actually spoke recently too with someone who had created a form of decentralized content analysis software, which is also a necessary step in our information processing pipeline. So the pieces and parts are coming together, and our major release of a single subject, which is going to demonstrate how at mass we can have the quote unquote communication and exchange of ideas, is forthcoming in this year.
Okay. We have to be going back soon, so quickly go around everyone if there's one other thing you want to add. Bentley?
Yeah, we didn't really get into, like, you know, we focused on the proper area of, you know, how do you kind of gather the feedback and how do you have people kind of collaborating. My focus is more on the actual the final decisions on what to do after you've done all the brainstorming and everything. But yeah, I think just going forward in your process, it'll be reviewing the tools that are out there, using that CivicTech guide that there'll be a talk on later on, and just analyzing them all and figuring out which one fits your needs, which ones fit your needs best. You know.
I'll say that good demos will be very handy for everybody, which is one of the reasons I'm streaming this today, so that people can see how QiqoChat works, because I've proselytized for QiqoChat and people just don't seem to get it. You know?
Right, yeah. Okay, Jamie?
Oh,
any last things?
Sorry, what was that last bit?
I was saying, any last comments before we have to go back to the main session?
Oh, well, you know, I appreciate having popped in here, albeit a little bit late. And I don't know if me talking about the internet government was a contribution to the subject. This format is excellent. And much like what the internet government aims to do, it's amazing if these exchanges and these ideas are housed in one place for everyone to access if they're not able to do so in real time, which is the beauty of what we're doing right now.
Okay. Right. Okay. So I think we've got to go back now. So thanks everyone for coming and joining and talking. And we'll go on to our next sessions.
Thanks for hosting, David.
Aye. Okay.
You can jump in there now. Everybody's wrapping up. So I'm gonna post the next topics here.
Oh, okay, it's fine.
Thank you, Lenolua. Nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Hearing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, have a
Sure.
nice evening. Yeah.
Yep, you too. Thank you.
Okay, new topics are going out. You should see them in just a few seconds. All right. Anybody have any questions? Chaska, good to see you. Now I see your name, so now I recognize you.
Hi.
Great. It's a small world.
Yes, it is.
So right now we're taking 5 minutes to jump to the new tables. Everybody's closing out.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if people went back to the main one first or not.
No, they're welcome to, absolutely.
Just process-wise, we're just hopping over to the second round of conversation?
Exactly, yep.
Okay.
I'm just here to answer any questions people have. Then Round 2 topics are posted. We're going to begin in about 4 minutes with a 40-minute round 2. People are welcome to ask questions here at the main table if anybody has one. And I'll stay here at the main table if people have feedback or anything they'd like to share. But the main goal right now is just to help people get to their next session wherever they want to go.
Lucas, I have to jump off now and get back to work. Let me connect with you after this is over and talk about like how we'll do the visuals. I had a grand conversation in the first round there.
So nice to meet you, Avril, and I look forward to seeing what you can produce as our graphic facilitator. Thank you for stepping up to make that happen.
It was a pleasure. I'll talk to you later. Good luck with the rest of the session.
Thank you.
Bye now. Bye, everybody.
So anyone who's here is at the main table. If you want to get to a breakout table, look for that breakout table on the left and go ahead and click it. And once you click in there, there's a new red button that'll open up the video chat for you. Because right now, if you can hear me, you're still in the video chat for the main table. If anybody has any questions, they're welcome to ask me here.
Right. Lucas, I will now sign off. It's 2:45 a.m. here. So I need to go catch some sleep before my day session. And to everyone else on the call, bye. And I hope to be part of the community and continue the conversation into the future. Right.
Wonderful, Prabhu. I look forward to catching up with you later. Have a great day.
Yes, thank you. And a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Lucas, do you have any objection to us putting our email addresses in the attendees?
That sounds good, Will.
Someone just asked how we're going to connect with each other. This is great, Lucas.
You like what you see?
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, I think there was a little bit of friction the way I did the 1, 2, 4 all in the beginning. It was pretty ambitious. It was the first time I've ever done it. I would have given it some more time and demonstrated it first. But people just dove into it, and most people got it. And a lot of lessons learned. So
do we have any break now, or are we going right into next?
I'm going to post the message now to everyone that says topic. I'll say sessions begin in 1 min. And I'll set the timer to 40 minutes.
So you actually have one of the participant panels as a note tool. Is that part of QiqoChat?
I'll briefly share it with you here. If you want to see my screen. So
I've used something, anyway, I'll just watch.
This is it right here, Will. So under admin controls, I have this. I could send a message. Okay, sessions begin now.
Okay.
And set the timer to 40 minutes, and then everybody's timer updates here. And there's the message that everyone sees. It's on the screen for a few seconds. All right, so round 2 has begun, and I'm here in the main table. If anyone can hear me, that means they're still connected to the main table. So the purpose of the main table is to answer any questions you have and
Welcome back. I hope everybody got a chance to go to the bathroom. I am going to give people an extra minute or two, because just in case other people want to join. I see a lot of people hanging out at the main table. So I think maybe they're deciding where to go. So I'm just going to give people another minute. Okay, so we have 38 minutes. So I do have like a little bit of a presentation, but I thought our first like session was really cool, that it was like just kind of an open like round table among everybody. So so I would love to have that happen again. And I'm actually going to make everybody do introductions. Sorry, but I'll go first. My name's Samantha, and I am a freelance journalist. So I actually do quite a few different things. Jolly, I think I'm watching your transcript happen. Is that you, the like live transcript?
Yes, I have to, tell you that you are being live streamed at this moment. So I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Oh no, it's fine. It's just funny. I can see it like typing my words as I talk. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I might want to ask you what tool you use for that later. So anyway, so my name's Samantha. I'm actually a journalist by trade, but I do, kind of a number of different jobs as a freelancer. And one of them is I work with this group called MisinfoCon. So I don't know if anyone has heard of it before. I know Caro said she actually went to one of our events in Kiev last year or the year before. But MisinfoCon is a series of conferences. It is also more than that. I kind of struggle for like what to describe it as, because it's like, I guess a community is the best word. I mean, we're not formalized as like a nonprofit or anything, but we have a big online community that meets in person sometimes, like at conferences and local events, but also congregates on Slack and on listservs and stuff like that. So if you are on the table for Google Doc, you should see for round 2, I pasted in a bunch of different links, and I'll go through those real quick. But yeah, if anyone's interested in MisinfoCon, the easiest way to kind of figure out what we do is actually to sign up for the bi-weekly newsletter. I know like people don't want to sign up for like yet another newsletter, which I totally feel you on, but this is, it only goes out every other week. It's for people who are interested in misinformation. So also if that's not something that you really work with much, it might not be for you, but there's a link to check out the past issues if you want to see, what they're about. So you can see if you want to subscribe. But basically that newsletter is the best way to keep track of the events we do, any news we do. We're actually, I think, going to be announcing micro grants early next month. So the micro grants will be small amounts, like $500 to $1,000, to fund anti-misinformation projects. So that could be like developing a tech tool, like a chatbot or something. It could be like an event series. We've had people use one of those grants to fund like a kind of like a regular meeting group online, like the one we're doing now. So I mean, that's actually not finalized yet, but we will be announcing that stuff. So if you're interested in like misinformation, I would sign up for that newsletter. We actually do not have a big MisinfoCon conference coming up. But we have done, last year we did them in London, Washington, D.C., and I think Kiev, unless Kiev was actually the year before. I think it was the year before. But we've also done them in Boston, and I feel like I'm missing one more, but they're pretty big conferences. We'll get a couple hundred people, and it's a mix of journalists, technologists, programmers, academics, researchers, scientists, civic activists, sociologists, like kind of anyone who's interested in misinformation and works in that field. It's actually even before the big kind of misinformation like explosion in misinformation and explosion interest in misinformation. It has been like a field of study for a long time. So we have a lot of people who have been studying it for quite a while. Those people are kind of getting more funding and attention now in the last couple of years than they did before, so that's a good thing. But one thing I'll just say about misinformation overall is that the quantity of it has definitely changed, mostly thanks to the internet and social media. So there's just simply way more misinformation out there right now. And I can also talk more about that if anyone's interested. I mean, it's not just the internet, there's a bunch of different factors. But one kind of good thing I would say about the misinformation kind of crisis we have now is that people are finally paying attention to stuff like social media and how that's affecting public discourse and also affecting the human psyche and huge stuff like that. And also like the internet in general, like really kind of changed humanity and changed communication. I mean, it changed people's mentalities. Like it had an enormous impact, which kind of goes without saying. I mean, that's obvious, but a lot of that, like we were kind of sweeping it under the rug for a good 10 or 20 or 30 years. And it's not being swept under the rug quite as much now. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard about a lot of the Facebook news, like Facebook is kind of getting dragged before Congress and stuff. And I mean, it's not like, you know, everyone has suddenly decided to start dealing with it, but they have kind of decided to start dealing with it. So, I mean, the plus side of the explosion in misinformation that we have seen in the last couple of years, the upside is that there's more funding and interest and just kind of like law and policy and attention that is helping us deal with these issues that are not actually new, that have been around forever technically, but have gotten much worse with like social media and stuff. So that's kind of the silver lining. But I'm going to try talk about how it affects civic tech and civic dialogue. If you're interested in, again, MisInfoCon, if you have any questions, you can reach us at misinfocon@gmail.com, which I typed in there. You know, Slack, I put links to Slack and Twitter and all those things if you want to check those out. So before I talk about MisInfoCon X and some online stuff that happened, can we go through, I know you guys all muted yourselves, sorry, but I'm asking you to not mute yourself. Can we go through and do introductions? So Jolly, I see you in my top right, so maybe you can go first.
I am Jolly McPhee. I'm in Brooklyn. I do live streaming for the Internet Society. And one thing I'd just like to say is, just as an introductory thing, is that I remember a long time ago, Nicholas Negroponte is an old pundit of the Internet, talking, this was in the early 90s, about the Internet. And he said, the network, people think about it as a sort of the web, the spider's web, but the net he saw was like a butterfly net, where you had this data stream, and what you would have to do is to use this net to like pick up the good stuff and ignore the crap. And I think this is becoming increasingly something that people, you know, the filters, the business of filters, and how to filter the information as much as, you know, you can't suppress information. It's how to like have some system of sorting the good from the bad, good tools for that, which is what we have to talk about.
Cool. Sandy, you're unmuted. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sandy Troth, and I'm just working in my local community with AARP as a livability ambassador. And what that means is that there's a small group of people who are working closely with elected officials to improve the quality of life for all people of all ages.
And Caro, you mentioned earlier that you were that you actually went to the MisInfoCon conference in Kiev. Can you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Karolina. I'm working for TechSoup Europe, which is based in Warsaw. We are a capacity building organization, so actually our role is to support other organizations. We mostly do it through technology donations program, but we do also several other programs supporting activists. For example, Tech for Stories, where we support engaging campaigns. And we have a lot of educational programs, thematic ones. For example, in transparency and accountability. I hope that was brief enough. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, and Allison Ryder, if you can hear me, can you unmute yourself for a minute and tell us who you are?
Sure, my name is Allison Ryder. I am with the UNH school, the school Harsey School of Public Policy at UNH, sorry, and we are exploring a possibility of doing digital field hearings and understanding that some spaces are hard to overcome what people's bias may be. And so how do we address that when we're trying to engage people through an online platform?
Sweet, okay. And lastly, Paul Edmund Brown, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Paul Brown at the School of Public Policy at the University of Maryland. We are starting a civic innovation center here in College Park. We have a campus-wide initiative, focused both on, it's on teaching, research, and practice in the areas of civic health and what are the contributing factors, both in the state as a whole and then on campus here in College Park. Part of that focus would be on the presence of reliable information from news media to contribute to civic health, and what are the obstacles to that in this current environment. We have a prominent school of journalism at Maryland that we will be partnering with on this, so we're looking to do some research and hopefully share that research with the larger community.
Cool, okay, awesome. Yeah, this event has been neat because it's been a really wide range of people who are all interested in the same thing. So in our first session, I thought we had a really cool roundtable of just people, you know, sharing what they're working on or what they're interested in. So, you know, I'll talk a little bit, but if anyone here is working on misinformation or is concerned about how it's affecting their communities or whatever, you know, definitely feel free to speak up. I'm also intermittently getting little notifications that say my internet connection is unstable. So I'm hoping that doesn't mess everything up. If I do like cut off or something, I mean, I put those links in the Google Doc. So if you email that misinfocon email and stuff, you can reach me. But I didn't have any internet connections before, so problems before. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Okay, so I mentioned that MisinfoCon has a series of conferences, which is where we get the name MisinfoCon. Those are pretty big. I mean, I named the cities they were in earlier, and you know, they're pretty major cities like Boston and DC and London. We also are just now starting to do a series of localized conferences. Or conference probably isn't even the right word for it, but it's a much smaller event, you know, localized to a city or a community. So those are called InfoCon X, off, you know, the famous TEDx series. And we just had our first one in Scotland. So we had two organizers who put together a day-long what they called an unconference in Stirling, Scotland. And basically they had some opening speakers, but they mainly focused on, you know, a bunch of breakout sessions where everybody, you know, got to pick what they wanted to work on, and they could propose something to work on right then and there. And then they broke off into groups, and, you know, they either actually like worked on a project or had a discussion or whatever, and then came back and shared their results. So that was our first MisinfoCon X. We're working on putting together a few other ones. What was interesting, or one of the interesting things about this first event, was that we actually got targeted by some misinformation purveyors who jumped on the event as a way to basically kind of stir up kind of suspicion around MisinfoCon and what it does, and the associations that it's affiliated with. So if you look at the Google Doc, I like screenshotted a couple tweets just to give you an idea. The guy on the right is a Sputnik writer. So Sputnik is, it's a Russian, I guess you would say, I mean, like a blog. It's kind of like a BuzzFeedy type website. I don't quite know how to describe it, but it's they have bureaus. It's English language, and they got bureaus in a lot of different places around the world. They are actually funded by the Russian government. So, I mean, it is they claim not to be, Russian propaganda or anything like that, but it does have a very clear, pro-Russian bent. And it's similar to RT, which some of you guys might have heard of, which stands for Russia Today, and it's very similar. Actually, RT is more openly a Russia, a government propaganda arm. So Sputnik and RT came across MisinfoCon X, the event in Scotland, and they jumped on it. One of the things I'm going to talk about today that's really interesting to me is they did not jump on it and kind of throw out accusations or even really say anything in particular. They just kind of jumped on MisinfoCon X to just kind of arouse suspicion or sort of like kind of throw dirt on the event and make it look illegitimate. So if you look at those tweets, for instance, or I'd be totally interested in what you guys think of it. But I read through a lot of these tweets because I was following it as it was happening, and they don't really say anything. Like, it's hard to even understand what they're saying because they're not really saying anything. So like the guy on the right, Kit Clarenberg, is a writer. I don't know if I can say reporter. I don't know if that's the right word, but he's a writer for Sputnik. He's a Scottish guy, but he works for Sputnik. And so, he's actually he calls himself an investigative journalist, but if you look at his tweets, which I also linked, they kind of just don't make sense. Like, it's really hard to tell what he's saying or trying to say. If you click on the link to what he wrote, which should be in his tweets if you want to find it, it's a little bit clearer, but he basically just says like, is it a Western deep state anti-Russian astroturfing event with a question mark? And then he doesn't really answer it because it's not. But he and then a lot of other, not a lot, but a handful, maybe 5 to 10 other people on Twitter who might work for Sputnik or might not, we're not quite clear. But they all, kind of jumped on these hashtags and stuff to do the same thing. Like the woman on the left, I don't know who she is actually, but she just kind of throws a bunch of like words in there that don't really make sense. So what I want to talk about for this kind of talk today, we're already down to 20 minutes, sorry, but is basically their method of spreading information, or rather misinformation, is weirdly kind of like impenetrable to people who would usually oppose it. So like journalists, or whoever the target of their statements are, like if like the traditional journalism reaction would just be to like deny an accusation of wrongdoing or to provide transparency, or to open a dialogue. But none of those actions will work because these statements that they're putting out are not an accusation, so you can't deny anything. Again, I'd encourage you, if you're interested, go click on the links that to Twitter that I posted, because you'll notice there's lots of tweets and there's lots of kind of sketchy things they're saying, but there's no real accusation, so then they can't refute it. Transparency, things like transparency and open dialogue also do not work, because the whole goal of what they're doing is to kind of kick up suspicion, or to like throw suspicion around on everybody and just make everyone kind of doubt the reliability of everyone. So that puts, I'm from a journalist background, so I kind of lean towards the journalism reaction, but it puts journalists in a very, very, very tough position, because journalists basically don't know how to respond to that. There's no tool in the journalism tool belt that will actually, like make a dent in it, because it's kind of like fighting a cloud. Like if you deny something that seems to be an accusation, they'll just kind of respond and they'll use you to bump their spread more and more. So I can talk about the response that the Scottish organizers took, but I'm going to be really interested in what you guys think about this. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with it and what you went through or what response you took, because we definitely don't have the answers. I mean, this is definitely an ongoing problem. It's going to take years and years. We know that. But, you know, for this like MisinfoCon X, it was actually an event that took place a couple weeks ago in Scotland. And so they did kind of have to deal with it. I mean, they didn't have like years to formulate a response. So what our two organizers in Scotland did, and what they recommended for other organizers of MisinfoCon X, or for other organizers in general, is to engage at first, especially if you don't know if they are like people who are tweeting in good faith. You know, they certainly could be like a Scottish citizen, you know, who really does think, you know, something bad about the event, and so they could respond and say like, no, but please come talk to us or something. But they recommended not engaging at all with the fake reporters. So like the RT and Sputnik people, they said that other professional organizations basically recommended just ignoring them altogether. And that's tough. That's really tough for a lot of journalists to handle, because it just runs so counterintuitively to how journalism works. Like, at least good journalism, like you always want to engage and respond and open a dialogue and stuff. But if you do that, in this case, all you're doing is providing a bigger platform for the malicious actors. And you're not going to clarify, you're not going to be able to clarify anything, or, you know, make them see reason or anything like that, because that's just not what they're doing. So this whole thing has kind of struck me as like, you know, these are like opposing teams, you can say, but they're playing totally different games. So like journalists are like, you know, playing checkers or whatever, and they have their usual stuff like interviews and facts and like corroboration and whatever. But then they're playing against people who are just playing a completely different game, and they have a different goal, different motivations, different moves. And so if you play like a checkers move against, but the other guys playing like chess, it's just weird and it doesn't work. So I probably need to work on that metaphor a little bit, but that's how I'm seeing it. And it just makes it super tough for not just journalists, but I mean, anyone who gets targeted by this, because we basically don't have like weapons to fight, you know, their weapons. So it came to the point for MisinfoCon X in Scotland, where they actually did delete their Twitter accounts for a couple days, which might seem, you know, kind of extreme, but you can actually, they said it was pretty successful, because the malicious actors were using things like their Twitter handle and the hashtag to just, you know, amplify their own message. And once that goes dark, then they can't use that. And then after a few days, they'll, a lot of them at least will kind of mosey on to other things. In a worst case scenario, you can block or mute harassing accounts. Again, that's kind of counterintuitive for a lot of journalists, because it's shutting down a dialogue. But again, they're playing a different game, so you kind of can't play by the typical journalism rules. And then lastly, they did prepare a risk assessment in case one of the trolls showed up in person, which luckily didn't happen. So I tried to go through those very quickly, because I would definitely want to make this more of like an open discussion. But I'm wondering if anyone on here has maybe been targeted by misinformation purveyors, or has seen it affect their community, and maybe how you handled it. Has no one on here?
Not in particular. I'll mention the book Network Propaganda. Are you familiar with that book that recently came out from MIT? And in it, they did a lot of analysis of tweets and social media postings. And what they found was that there was, you know, and sort of sorted them from left to right, as it were, in terms of politics. And what they found was that on the left there was a broad range of views, but on the right there was then there was a sort of chasm, and then on the right there was like a bunch, just a very narrow band of views that were sort of self-reinforcing, and they all live in a self-reinforcing bubble. And that, you know, and this would to me somehow kind of, you know, and you weren't going to, you know, you weren't going to change any of them. Meanwhile, these people were sort of having their own conversation, you know, more broadly. And so I think that, you know, in terms of your reaction to Paul's tweets, that goes to like number one, which is ignore the troll. You know, that you know, you're not going to make any difference over there, you know, with them.
Yeah, well, and that is kind of a classic internet maxim, is don't feed the trolls. So that does, you know, that's very good advice for this and for a lot of stuff on the internet. You know, I think two problems that do arise with that is, first of all, and again, I'm just speaking from the journalist side, so I'm really interested in what people from other industries think, because it's definitely not just a journalist problem, but you know, like it just seems so odd, I think, to journalists to ignore people, and it's also hard. It can be hard to tell who's actually a troll. I mean, you know, I guess I would, you know, loosely define a troll as someone who is, you know, acting in bad faith or just trying to kick up, you know, controversy, as opposed to having a real discussion. But sometimes, you know, sometimes there are people who want to have a real discussion and they happen to be using, you know, offensive language or something, but that doesn't mean that they're not like a real person with real concerns. And so that kind of goes back to the first recommendation from our Scottish organizers, which is to engage, but then pretty much immediately start evaluating whether you should keep engaging. I mean, you do run the risk, like you don't want to be seen as inaccessible, I think, because, or that you're ignoring criticism, because that is one of the complaints that the misinformation purveyors are putting out, is that, you know, you're this like sketchy organization and you're like not willing to talk about it or something, when that's not really true. It's just that you don't want to talk about it with people who, you know, are not going to engage in a good faith discussion. So, you know, I don't know too much about how the Scottish organizers, you know, kind of decided or figured out like who was a troll and who was an actual, you know, person. But they did, you know, start responding and then pretty quickly, you know, stop responding. And then after a while, I think if it got bad enough, they blocked or muted the person, which again runs the, you know, it's kind of sucks because it almost feels like you're proving their point. Like if you block them, the troll is going to feel like, oh, I was right, you know, they can't take criticism or something, when again, that's not the case. But it's kind, I mean, it's like a losing battle to actually try to engage with them. So yeah, I mean, I think that's really good advice, is to just ignore the trolls. So I know some of you guys are from kind of a wide range of different industries. I don't know, have you, like, I don't know if you guys have, maybe you have, I don't know if you have formulated a response, like maybe that's kind of too far down the line. It's easier to identify problems than solutions. Yeah, I'm wondering if anyone on here has kind of dealt with trolls or whatever, and even just like your personal response to it, or what you think people could do. We have less than 10 minutes, so sort of running out of time-ish, but if anyone, you know, has anything they want to bring up or any questions or anything, please feel free, because I didn't want to monopolize this whole time.
So obviously the other answer is to fight fire with fire and get on there and think up your own, you know, make your own memes, make your own hashtags, and basically go for it.
Yeah, sorry, my internet out right then. But yeah, that is one possible response. Yeah, I don't know if I recommend that, but it's one option available to you. Anyone else?
So we don't have this experience yet, with stress on yet, because I believe it will come sooner or later. And we are asking ourselves the same questions as you have been raising. and we also don't have answers. That's why I was not taking the floor. But thank you very much for like honestly sharing the details, because this is the current reality that is like becoming the reality of more and more persons and more organizations. We all don't know how to react. So yeah, we are also asking the questions like, who can advise? Who knows the answer? Who was there before and learned from mistakes? Because apparently, like the trolls seems to be much more advanced than the rest of the civil society. So they have tactics, and we don't know how to respond.
Yeah, and that is one problem, is that the trolls or the misinformation purveyors are not tied down by things like reality or you know, truth or accuracy or fairness or anything like that. And those are kind of journalism staples. I know I keep going back to journalism, but you know, it applies to a lot of industries. And so that is one reason that they're, I mean, I hate to say it, but like they are a lot more powerful than truth tellers, at least in some ways, because you know, the like content that'll go viral the most is mostly content that hits people's like emotional buttons. And so, you know, that's kind of been known for like a while, but, you know, journalists or whoever, you know, people on social media, whatever, you know, if you have, you know, you can try to have like some kind of emotional like pathos or whatever in your tweets or something. But a troll or whoever is free to just go 100% on the emotional buttons without having to stick to stuff like truth. And so their stuff is a lot more viral. And then, you know, I think there's something called the bullshit, I forget the phrase, but some of you might have heard it, the bullshit paragon or something. And it's this phrase that's like, the energy it takes to refute one piece of bullshit is an order of magnitude larger than the bullshit itself. So like someone can just put out a statement and it can easily go viral or whatever. And then, you know, a journalist can easily fact check it or you know, refute it. But that their fact check will not go viral because it doesn't hit people's emotional buttons the way the first statement did. So that's one enormous problem. I mean, I know, you know, with this talk, I wanted to at least show up with some like potential solutions, so we wouldn't just sit here talking about problems the whole time, but there certainly are more problems than solutions. One thing that MisinfoCon, I mean, or I should say people who are in the MisinfoCon community, you know, they're working on, I would say people are even mostly focusing right now on just figuring out what the heck is going on and why. And, you know, as much as people love to just kind of throw out statements, like it's actually a very complicated issue and it's actually not really clear what's going on with the way people communicate, or it's like becoming clear. But I mean, we've got a good several years ahead of us of just research and experimentation to figure out what's happening. So like, you know, what Caro just mentioned with stuff going viral and everything, and being tough to like refute. I mean, that's one thing, but there are so many other things that are going on, like filter bubbles, you know, public figures themselves. I mean, there's so much. I'm not even going to try to go into it, but we've got a few years ahead of us of just kind of figuring this stuff out. And then after those few years, at least I like to think, you know, we'll have maybe a good 5 years or so of figuring out solutions. And then after that, probably a good 5 or 10 years of implementing those solutions. So that can be like a very harsh kind of, you know, wrap up for people. I think no one really wants to think that we're going to be stuck in this communication crisis for like, you know, 10 or 15 years. But I think, you know, and this is just me speaking, but I think, you know, we will come out of it. But frankly, you know, stuff like the internet and social media has just so totally, mangled traditional communication, and it happened so fast that, as we're seeing, like, laws have not caught up, the government has not caught up, they don't even really know what's going on, they're trying to figure out what's going on. Academia has definitely not caught up. Technology actually hasn't either, really, at least what we would call defensive technology. So again, it kind of goes back to like the original, like the bullshit principle. I think that's what it's called, is like this misinformation stuff's got super popular super fast. And then the defense to it is going to take a lot longer to develop. But like I said at the very beginning of this session, even though it's like 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road, I mean, I'm at least somewhat optimistic because, I think people kind of get freaked out, or they think humanity is like doomed or something because we have so much misinformation and there are so many bad actors out there. But a huge part of it is really not that of like a hot button issue. It's just that technology like changed human beings very quickly. And we really have to like figure out what it did to, people's brains and stuff. I mean, it's really huge. And so we were going to have to deal with this sooner or later, and we weren't really dealing with it. I mean, in the US, at least, the 2016 election really kicked off a big interest in misinformation. But, it was around before then. There is more of it now. But I think, at least now that new interest and all this attention, including stuff like funding and academic studies that weren't happening before, at least we will start to address these huge technological changes. And, with anything like that, if it's going to be good, like if it's going to be impactful and correct, it's going to take years. I mean, any good academic study will take at least like 2 years, and that's just one study. So as the years go by, I think we'll start figuring it out a bit more. And I think we'll start seeing, or at least I hope we'll start seeing a bit more involvement from things like platforms. I know things like foundations, like big foundations like the Ford Foundation or the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they're starting to get, or they have been interested. So I think there's going to be more buy-in from more people, which will also be very helpful. I mean, I know, especially, just speaking from a US perspective, like, especially after the 2016 election, there was this sudden, like, all of a sudden people were putting out like Chrome extensions and stuff, and like, I don't know, like link checkers and things where they would be like, here, install this Chrome extension so you don't fall for fake news. And we've basically found that those are totally useless. I mean, they jumped way too quickly into implementation. Even Facebook itself, or a bunch of platforms itself, tried to implement new features that also have been, failures. But that's basically because any true reaction is going to take a long time and a lot of research to implement. But that's one thing I really admire about this MisinfoCon community, is that they're very like experienced and very serious, and they definitely are not the kind of people to jump to like a Chrome extension or whatever, because that really does not even like begin to address the problem. So again, if you're interested in MisinfoCon, the easiest way to just kind of get a hold of what we're doing is the newsletter, or check out any of the other links I left in the Google Doc. I did end up taking up our whole time. I think we're pretty much out of time. Did anyone have like a last minute question or comment before we go back?
I just say we are out of time, but I appreciate your optimism on this, and I agree. This too shall pass.
Yeah, I like to think so. Yeah, I think it's like rational optimism, I think. Great. Okay, well, thank you guys. Hopefully I will run into you in one of the next sessions. Goodbye.
what's neat is one of the videos is the Internet Society here on the right, and we could see the transcription, and some of the transcription is from the breakout room that he was just in. It's a pretty impressive transcription service that seems very accurate.
Bye-bye.
Bye, John. If you want to share any feedback, Bentley, you're welcome to do that. I think we're on the live stream right now here from the Internet Society, so anything you share, it's being broadcast live around the world.
I'll be happy to leverage some evil criticisms. This is horrible. No.
Well, and I take all the, I know that it's hard to do this, so any feedback is welcome. Let me see.
Yeah, we appreciate you putting this all together. I don't know how you like having feedback to improve every year. So
excellent. Yeah, I think we're going to be doing more and more events every 2 weeks. They'll be smaller, and I think they're going to be panel events where we get some very well-known people and do an interview style 20, 30-minute interview, and then we break out. So we have so many presenters here that it's just such a wealth of talent. For whatever reason, when the presenters shared that they were presenting, not a lot of people showed up. I'd say we could have handled 3 times as many people. And the average size of the presentations here, the ones that are happening, looks like it's 4 to 8 people, and that's definitely a sweet spot in terms of quality of conversation, because everybody gets to participate 25% of the time, approximately. So I think that's what we're going to do next and see how that goes over, where some very sought after folks do more of a interview style presentation.
yeah, one of the challenges here was there's so many good topics. Okay, I'll probably jump to one of the other rooms momentarily.
Great, just kicking off round 3. So sent the message to everybody that round 3 starts now. It'll last 40 minutes. Bentley, I love the transcription of what you said a moment ago. So many good topics play jumpsuit, one of the Renaissance era, taking off around 3.
It was doing pretty good till then.
Yeah. It's a pretty good transcription service otherwise. I'm glad we got so many RSVPs. This many more than the last time we held this. We learned a ton, and we reached out to so many organizations. I think we got the momentum to make this succeed, where we just keep hosting events and really listen to the community and hear what live events they want us to host, and then we simply host them.
Hello? Hi, Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good. Looks like we have Jolie here as well, but I'm not not sure if she's participating in the audio. Oh, I see. It's a transcription service. Okay, interesting. Hey, Lucas.
Hi, Mark. Just checking in. I should stay at the main table just to keep everything going.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure what it looks like. There's a transcription service running here.
Yes, that's the Internet Society. They're live streaming. And also, if you're able to record this session, we'll make sure that many more people can hear whatever you're going to talk about here with Mark today.
Okay, sounds good. I'll hit the record button in just a sec.
Okay, and you came in as a presenter, as a host, so you'll be able to do that?
Yeah, it looks like it. Let me just hit record and, you know what? I guess I did not enter as a meeting host, so.
Do you want me to show you how to do that?
Sure.
Okay, you'll quit Zoom, but don't do that just yet because you're gonna lose me here. So you'll quit Zoom, and then at the top of the screen, it says admin controls. Top left.
Top left. Okay, I see that, yeah.
Click on that.
Uh-huh.
And then there's a new red button. So first, quit Zoom here, then click that red button. And if the red button doesn't work, there's a second button that says try again.
All right. Okay, I'll give that a shot.
I'll be right here. Okay, see you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Huh.
Okay, looks like we're all back together.
Great, and I'm going to click participants down at the bottom, and I can see you are indeed the host. So I will take my leave. Mark, yeah, if you can record this, we'll be sure that many more people get a chance to enjoy your discussion.
All right, thanks, Lucas.
Catch you later.
Okay, bye. All right, so I just hit the record button, and it looks like we've got Jolie with us as well, though he appears to have stepped up for a moment. And Mark, it sounds like you're down in the East Bay?
Yeah, I'm in the East Bay.
Cool.
Where are you?
Up in Seattle.
Oh, okay. Well, we're in the two tech hubs, huh?
Yeah.
Amazon and Google.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. What's your organization?
Democracy Lab.
Oh, I've heard of that. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe what I'll do is share my screen and launch into just a real quick kind of overview of what we're doing, and maybe show what we built, and then just kind of have open discussion from there. Hi, Jolie. Hey, Jolie, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm doing two things at once because I'm live streaming over there and I'm participating over here. So and now I've got my coffee and my cookies. I'm good.
All set. Where in the world is home?
Right now, I'm in Brooklyn, close to Brooklyn College.
Oh, okay, great. Well, we've got Seattle, or not quite San Francisco, the Bay Area, and Brooklyn on the line together. So great. Well, I'm going to just go into a real quick presentation, and then try and keep that to about 5 minutes, and then we can just have an open discussion from there. Sound good?
Perfect.
Hey, you're going to share slides?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen here. Just have to make this work. And so this working all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll skip a couple things here. Democracy Lab has been around since 2006. Initially, it was a platform to crowdsource public policy. That we built something that didn't work at all, and later pivoted to try and help projects launch more successfully. And so this is a diagram of our long-term vision to connect stakeholders in the CivicTech ecosystem. So building a marketplace that connects projects to volunteers, to donors, to institutions who would be clients, to citizens who would use the tools that are developed. And the idea is that the sum of the marketplace is greater than, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, that all of there's information created in all of these exchanges between stakeholders that taken together will optimize resource allocation in the civic technology space, and that in the science fiction in state, what we develop is an enlightened collective intelligence that uses our humanity's best judgment to make our most important decisions and carry them out efficiently.
Cool.
But that's way too much to try and do it at once. So where we've started is by building a platform to connect projects and volunteers. Because as we looked at the life cycle of CivicTech projects, that seemed to be the first real dependency, that projects needed to attract volunteers in order to prove their concept, to launch an MVP and then prove their concept so that they could then hope to attract funding and achieve scale a little bit differently than in the world of for-profit business, where you might be able to attract the funding before you build a product. And so this is kind of how we positioned ourselves. We're seeking to optimize the connection between skilled volunteers and technology projects that advance the public good. And one of the key insights that we took from the research that we did was the need to encourage transparency in the way projects organize themselves. The complaint that we heard from project leaders was that the cost of onboarding a new volunteer often exceeded the benefits. And the complaint that we heard from volunteers was that lots of projects are too disorganized for them to be able to help efficiently. And so in the design of our platform, we've tried to nudge projects towards transparency. And so this is a screenshot from the platform that shows links through to the GitHub repo, the Slack team, the Google Drive, our Trello boards, Figma, where the design work happens. And we've encouraged people to show the skills that they need, the technologies they're using. The idea here is that volunteers can dig deeply into a project before they ever reach out to the project leader, and there starts to introduce friction in cost in terms of that engagement. And so last year we launched the MVP version of our platform in August. We made what I think was a good decision to couple local hackathons with the platform launch. And so what was a little different about these events was that it was not something that you tried to accomplish everything in a day, but to take an existing project and make incremental progress on it in a day as an introduction to a longer term and ongoing volunteer commitment. And between those four events, we've had about 300 attendees, and our estimate for the actual time there in the room is about 2,000 hours of volunteer work, though it's substantially greater than that if you look at work done outside of those hackathons. We've now got a decent-sized research, design, and development team making software releases every couple of weeks. And we're having an impact on projects. A couple of examples are this one, Orca Sound, listening for whales near Seattle and improving their habitat. They built an app. They credited Democracy Lab and some of their communication for helping grow their volunteer team to more than 50 people and for the release of that app. Another is Ready, Set, Vote. We help them rebuild the back end of their website so that it can be used outside of just King County and Seattle. This is like a personalized voter's guide that shows endorsements of media sources you trust for every race you can vote in. And so they're now ready to expand because of that. Another project that got out like 25 volunteers at the last event to help them build a platform to connect tech workers with businesses that are at risk of, run by people of color that are at risk of being gentrified out of South Seattle. And then we're looking to better prove our impact, expand to other geographies, and escape from the strictly volunteer funding model that we have now. And then we're just doing, our next event is March 16th. So I'll exit out of that quickly, and then just take 1 second here to show you what the platform itself looks like. And so this is live at democracylab.org. You can see a list of CivicTech projects here, and you can filter by issues that these projects address, by roles that are needed. So it's obviously we've got software development, but then one of the other things that we gleaned was in our research was that projects need a lot more than just technical skills. So we've included design, data functions, business functions, so that projects have the opportunity to attract people with a broad range of skill sets that they might need. You can filter by project stage, by technologies used. So if you were you wanted to find a project in Python, you could do that. And now we're just showing the projects in Python. If you were passionate about the environment, you click on the environment and you say, okay, well, here are the two projects that are addressing the environment and using Python. So what is oftentimes a pretty difficult process in terms of finding projects to contribute to can become a whole lot easier with this tool. So why don't I stop there and just kind of invite conversation. Any thoughts, reactions, feedback, Mark?
I think it's I mean, it's a very interesting idea. I was looking at the issue areas, and it doesn't seem like the one that I'm interested in is represented there.
Which one is that?
Government finance.
Yeah, and I think so. What is one decision that we made a little while back, which I wasn't super jazzed about, was to only show the issue areas that have projects associated with them.
Okay.
So there are issue areas that don't have a project yet. I would think that government finance, though, are you talking about campaign finance?
No, actually, if you don't mind, would you be willing to go to my project on your browser?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
so if you go to cafrs.municipalfinance.
Okay.
.org. And then if you select general purpose.
Right here?
Yeah. And then select 2000, okay. If you select 2017, yeah. So this is like all of the government financial statements that I could find.
Huh.
And they're in this library. And you can open one of them if you're curious to see what it's like. But anyway, so the way this is maintained is that there's a bunch of scrapers that the main scraper that I have operational goes to the Census Bureau and scrapes all of the government filings that involve governments that receive more than $750,000 of federal funds and are obligated to file their financial statements under the single audit. But I also have state-specific scrapers, including one for Washington State. So, you know, there's a lot. I have a lot of content in here from Washington State that's not from the federal government.
Cool.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So, I mean, I would love to find volunteers to get this working to a better level. I mean, you might want to unzoom it to get like a little, because like I'm seeing like only about 2/3 of it right now. So.
Okay.
Well, anyway, there's not too many other people on. So, I'm bringing this up because it seems like this might be a good fit for what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but I see some problems. So, and this might be just of general interest to you, and I don't know how often this happens, but so what I did is I started building this myself. Then I used some of my money to pay an offshore programmer to work on it.
Yep.
Then I got a contact at Microsoft who offered me a grant. So they gave me a few $1,000s and of cash, and they gave me a lot of Azure time.
Uh-huh.
So I've run through that cash. So now I'm back to spending my own cash again, if I want to, or just not developing it any further. And I still have the Azure time. And I was really ultimately just looking for a larger organization to take it over. I mean, I'm probably going to operate it for another year or two if I can't get any other support. But, you know, the problem for me is like, I don't know whether if I brought in a volunteer, whether I'd have the problem that you're saying. You know, you referenced before that I might make a big investment in training up the volunteer on what's been done so far and what needs to be done, and then not get a result. So it's almost like, for me, I feel like I'm at the point where I should just find a larger organization to take ownership of this, get grant funding, and just operate it. And that doesn't seem, it's when you first talked, it seemed like maybe that would fit with what you're trying to do, but then later it just seemed like a more volunteer matching. So am I missing something?
No, that's definitely what we are doing now is, you know, volunteer matching. I just going back to that diagram, this is the proof of concept that we're executing now, is connecting projects and volunteers.
Yeah.
The next thing that we're looking at adding is basically crowdfunding capabilities for CivicTech donors, so that projects have the opportunity to attract both labor and capital.
Right. But so outside that crowdfunding, you know, that means to me like people like me contributing $25. I mean, like the other model that I personally find more compelling is find a big foundation that's got a lot of money and get some of it.
How's your luck been doing that?
Well, I mean, my day job exists because of that. But I have not, you know, I have not found the organization other than Microsoft that gave me a seed grant to fund it. But I have I know that a similar project received $800,000 from a foundation, and after they spent that, they disbanded.
Right.
For $800,000, I could have operated this thing in perpetuity. So
Yeah.
I know it's possible, but it seems like to me an organization like yours could develop those relationships with foundations, and then you know, help deserving, in my humble opinion, downstream people like myself, you know, get access to those connections.
Yeah, and that's part of what you know, we're hoping to do. You know, we were on the call with Matt just a little bit ago, and he was talking about foundations starting to use the CivicTech Field Guide to identify you know, competitors or where there's duplication. You know, and I am hoping that as this platform grows, that foundations start to use Democracy Lab as a tool for identifying candidates for, you know, seed funding.
Yeah.
I'm also optimistic that a foundation might choose to do something like establish a matching fund, so that they say, rather than make bets into specific projects, let's take $100,000 and set up a matching fund. And now we've created an incentive for all of these project leaders to go and do fundraising on their own and tap into matching funds as a result.
Right.
So I think that there are some interesting opportunities there, and that the due diligence that can be done even now when we have designed around the needs of the volunteer. There's still a lot of due diligence that's possible that would be of interest to a foundation, but we're starting to do research around what are the information needs of CivicTech donors, so that we can design a potentially different interface for people, so that as you come to the platform, what you see now is, maybe instead of these two buttons of find a project or create a project, it's volunteer for a project, donate to a project, create a project.
Okay. So on the volunteer side, let me put something to you that you probably won't like, but I figure, hey, you got to throw stuff out there and see what they say.
Yeah.
So, I said earlier that I'm not so bullish on volunteers for the reasons that you discussed about, what the investment is versus the return that you get. I can tell you that project that we just looked at was started with a volunteer who, or at one point was handed over to a volunteer who just didn't produce anything.
Yeah.
So I'm very, I've been through that whole volunteer thing.
Well, I don't know if you can say,
sorry.
One experience, I don't know if you'd say you've been through it all.
I've gone to a lot of hackathons where there's like a discussion of the project continuing, and then everyone sort of disappears. So that would be another point. So I'm sorry to make this a point of argument. I really shouldn't be. It may be that I simply haven't glommed onto a project that generated a good ecosystem of volunteers. So let me just say that I'm sure for many projects a volunteer scenario works. There may be other projects where it may be more challenging. So given that, my model has generally been to use Upwork to find offshore programmers.
Yeah. I think it basically comes down, in my opinion, to what you've got more of. Do you have more time or more money?
Right.
If you've got more money, then use Upwork. If you've got more time, then make the investment in building a volunteer team. And I don't want to pretend that it's easy, but I will say that, and I think you're on the call when I mentioned this with Matt, that we just recently submitted a grant application, and I listed out 26 different people who are actively volunteering on our project. And the reality is, a month from now, it's not going to be the same 26 people. There are going to be people who've dropped off, and there are going to be new people who've come on. And there is a cost associated with that turnover.
Right.
But that exists in for-profit businesses as well. I think the real trick is with volunteers is really cultivating that sense of purpose that gets people to just decide, of all the things I could do with my free time, I'm going to contribute it to this project.
Right. Well, anyway, so what I wanted to get to was the following.
Yes.
So from our last calls, and I'm sure you've seen this many other times in your travels, that there are big CivicTech communities in a lot of countries, including places like Eastern Europe and Africa and Latin America. And I would rather hire someone to work on my paid project who's in CivicTech in a foreign country, because as you just said a little bit earlier, they're going to have a sense of purpose. And a lot of people have multiple motivations. They may they may need to earn money from a particular engagement, but they may also have a passion for it. So I'd love to find people, not just somebody who is looking for anything on Upwork where he can get $25 an hour, to find those people who really appreciate CivicTech, would probably bring insights to it that I haven't thought of, and may get ideas for their own CivicTech work in their country. So I think if a site like yours could make matches between offshore developers, designers, and other experts, and people who need help on projects here, I think that would be very exciting.
Yeah, and I'll just go back to this diagram one more time. That is something that we've mapped out, is the option here for companies and professionals to bid on paid work. So that is kind of part of the long-term vision, is basically like an Upwork for social good.
Yeah.
Because not everybody can volunteer. There are plenty of people for volunteering is a luxury. That's you're in some sort of position of privilege if you can afford to spend your time working for free on something. There's also different accountability mechanisms when there's money changing hands, and so that is something that that if you hire someone on Upwork, you're not going to complete the payment unless the work is done to your satisfaction.
Yep.
If you're working with a volunteer, that's just not possible. To have that same level of accountability, there's kind of social pressure and peer accountability that exists, but it's definitely different. Right. I will say that one advantage, I think, to the volunteer model over paid work that isn't is one that I've kind of had to gradually accept over time, is that when working with volunteers, they're all co-creators with you. So, your ability to act as sort of the
boss,
the benign dictator,
yes,
is minimized. And it's not that you can't, as the leader of the project, make a call and say, I know you don't like it, but this is what we're going to do. But in a volunteer organization, the cost may be that your volunteers walk away. If you're paying somebody, they might just say, all right, well, just write the check and I'll do what you say. And so you could look at that as being a negative, but I do think that co-creation process helps to stress test the decisions that you make about what to design and what to build. And at least for me in Democracy Lab, I think has helped improve the decisions that we've made by having other people at the table whose opinions I have to give an awful lot of credence to if I don't want to alienate them and risk losing them from the project.
Right. Well, I guess with a name like Democracy Lab, you have to have democratic management techniques. I think people would become pretty disappointed if that wasn't the case. But so for me, like with that application I showed you, there's a fairly basic requirement, and boy, I wouldn't want to spend a lot of cycles debating with other people what the functionality should be, because it's a very simple thing. If you start adding a lot of bells and whistles to it, there's more chance that it won't serve its purpose. But so I think, you know, I think the paid work, I like this idea, and that you know, you have on the lower right here. You know, one option you would have if you decide to pursue this is to build your own, you know, Upwork type of platform. I mean, I think another option is, you know, there are a lot of competitors to Upwork, and maybe one of them could be convinced to provide their platform on some kind of concessionary basis.
Yeah.
So that, you know, you could white label it, and then you know, and then you wouldn't have to build all the tech around it.
Right. Julie, it looks like you wanted to say something.
Well, first I would say that you know, I just had a recent experience where I was in an all-volunteer organization, and we got someone and started paying them, and then someone else, i.e. me, actually got frustrated because I found I was still doing all the work and it was all right when nobody was getting paid, but as soon as someone was getting paid, I felt like hard done by. You know, so it's a tough balance, you know, to make a hybrid, to make any kind of hybrid. And I wondered, you know, to this point, at Democracy Lab itself, what's your structure there? Do you have paid people there?
We don't. Yeah, and this is something that is a challenge that I've been thinking about as we look to make the organization more sustainable. Is what might the effect on the culture be if we receive a grant and decide, okay, we need to pay our technical lead, we need to pay, you know, me, the executive director, you know, maybe we need to pay a community manager. What is the effect on the culture of the, you know, the volunteers as a whole? Do they have the reaction that you just described of feeling like you know, they're kind of getting the short end of the stick? You know, one option that I've considered and I think would be tough to execute would be you know, dispensing revenue among the, you know, the people who are contributing based on, you know, the time that they're contributing and the value of the work that they're doing. But that starts to get pretty complicated, I think.
Yeah. You know, I'm in the Internet Society. You know, we have a source of funding. We own the .org registry. You know, we have a staff, and then we have 130 chapters around the world that are volunteer organizations. You know, some have got some kind of local funding and so on. So it's, you know, there's a continual stress, and so, you know, how we've done it is, to some extent, is to allow people to set aside some funding for projects, and say, okay, you can apply for funding for your project, and a certain number of projects are going to get funding. The people that actually decide what gets funding is made up by a group which includes volunteers and staff. And in fact, recently the new thing is we've just separated out right now a foundation that's going to, like, you know, basically take care, you know, after this was a result of a bit of back and forth, that's going to look at how money gets dispensed out. So, you know, that is one way to look at it, is to actually, you know, and if you look at something like Wikipedia, you know, you'll see that this is what they do. They have the Wikimedia Foundation, which, you know, dispenses cash and runs a skeleton staff.
Yeah.
So then, you know, then you would have, you know, people could just fund, rather than shopping around the projects, people could fund the foundation, and the foundation could fund the project.
Right. Yeah, and we're kind of considering that as well, because a lot of the projects on our platform are not really going to be eligible for funding from foundations because they're not established nonprofits. You know, the probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the projects on the platform are, you know, just informal, you know, groups that have gotten together and started to work on something. Actually, I take that back. Maybe it's about half, but that's we could act as a Democracy Lab could act as a fiscal sponsor for those organizations and distribute funds that we received to them.
And then I've got some other questions, which is just about how do you, how do you do diligence on your projects? What do you do with ones that seem to be dying, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So the short answer is we don't do much. The idea is that, these are tech for good projects. If a project isn't obvious, somebody adds a new project, then what I do is I just reach out to them. It doesn't happen so often that it's unmanageable at this point, but I just reach out to them and have a little bit of discussion about the project. There have been a few instances where I've said, no, that's really not a fit, for our platform. And it's primarily related to projects that are partisan in nature, regardless of my own, personal politics, some project that's designed to elect, progressives to office as an example. We can only let that on the platform if we were also willing to, elect, have something on the other end of the political spectrum. So we try to steer clear of blatantly partisan projects. But other than that, we're trying to basically find a reason to say yes rather than a reason to say no to these projects. And, we do, if we scroll down, these projects are sorted by when they were last updated. So we have some, this idealist project is, probably dead and could be removed. There are, a few others like this one. This is a guy who came to one of the hackathons and tried to start his project, but probably is not going anywhere. But we may do, I think, some light curation of the project list, but the idea is really more that as we start to gather more, glean more information from the interactions on the platform, that the kind of the marketplace sorts itself, so that the market forces bring the most active projects to the fore. One of the things we intend is eventually for there to be user ratings and reviews on the platform, like it's Amazon or Airbnb, so that you see which are the 5-star projects and which are the 1-star projects, and people steer clear of the projects that shouldn't be getting resources.
Okay,
my
next question is about how you actually manage your membership. And given that you're using a number of different platforms, there's no unified sign up across platforms, or you presumably run a membership system on the back end of this?
Yeah, so there is you do log in, you can see a little logged in icon there. And then once someone is logged into Democracy Lab, they can join the team. So you can see a partial list of the team members over there. But this really doesn't do much. This is just so that people can see who they'd be working with if they join. Much more of the, for us, where most of the activity happens is on Slack. And so
each project has a channel on Slack, presumably.
Yeah, and we don't do that under us. It's not under we encourage them to start their own, free Slack team, rather than trying to have all the projects work under our umbrella. I could see advantages of doing it the other way, but I think when in doubt, we've tried to minimize the friction that we're creating projects. So rather than forcing them to adopt any particular tool or technology, let them do what they're already doing and just link through to it from our platform.
And is your platform at all portable if other people wanted to use it within their own systems or organizations?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an MIT open source license, so anybody can do anything they want with it. Some of the things that we're exploring are, as we're kind of looking at monetization models. How do we generate revenue from this tool that we built that is providing value to the people who are using it? One of the things that we've talked about is white labeling, and charging a fee for organizations that want to use this but don't want to go through all the hassle of forking it and then kind of spinning up an instance on their own. So that's something that we're, I'd say, researching, as opposed to designing.
You think you might rebrand the back end?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, we may do kind of what I've seen Nation Builder do, where they have a little footer at the bottom that says, powered or created with Nation Builder. I think we might do something that says powered by Democracy Lab at the bottom, but have all of the branding put the organization first. And I think that may help us to expand, as we're looking to expand geographically. Organizations like Code for America or Data for Democracy, that have large memberships and a national footprint, they have a need for what we built. Yeah. But my perception, and we're just starting to really kind of research this now, is that branding would be an obstacle. That unless their brand is front and center and it can have a similar look and feel to everything else they're already doing, that they're unlikely to want to adopt it, even if it were free. They're unlikely to say, to see our projects, visit Democracy Lab, and click on the Code for America community. They would likely want it to.
I mean, one would hope to see the kind of portability that something like MediaWiki has as a project management system. I mean, for which it obviously is pretty neat. It does a pretty good job of that.
Just wanted to quickly thank you guys. I see the main table is restarting, so I'm going to head back to that. But great meeting you two.
Yes, okay. Thank you both.
Yes.
Okay, talk to you later.
Bye.
We can share these learnings with more people. All the notes will be packaged for all participants and all presenters. And they will also be right where they are right now indefinitely. So you can go back there and add to them, refer to them anytime you like. So I'll just sit back and open the floor. On a content level, what do you come away with from this event that might change how you approach your own work? Or what did you learn that might have surprised you?
Well, I'll start. Just the amount of stuff that's going on in the world. There had been a point where civic networking and community networking were very hot and very visible. And I go back, I point to Steve and Cliff's work. I'm surprised Steve isn't here. And then everything sort of disappeared to the background, and we had, social media emerged and lots of things around social media marketing and political campaigning. But the more civic-oriented stuff seemed to disappear into the background. So I'm rather gratified by how much is going on.
I'll just throw in my 2 cents and say what I put in my comments, that people remain apart. I think the most aching need for people is community, conversation, awareness, and understanding of where they fit into an entire hierarchy and of need. If we had the ability to have a map of the entire conversation, it's nice to know where the conversation is and where's a little pointer that says you personally are here in that conversation and how it can move around. We need more processes like QiqoChat, like some of the stuff that Pierce is doing and other people are doing to help bring awareness to the entire picture. This platform helps us to talk at a human level, a scalable level, but we need processes that help bring better awareness of all the different groups at all stages. So thank you, everybody. Had a great time.
So the floor is open for people that might have learned something that surprised them, or anything that they're going to take back which might influence their work.
What I got that wasn't a deep surprise, but it actually was from John and Lisa's presentation in the first go round, their work on homelessness and pulling in the voices of unsheltered people into the conversation in Seattle. That I am most interested by those on the ground efforts that are where they, in some sense, know day to day whether it's working or not. And I am over time less interested in the things that come purely from theory or just from technology, where I have heard a dozen times at least where someone will say, well, if we could only get everyone to use this technology, it would be great. And the it would be great part I seldom have an argument with, but there's a lot of work in that if. So the people who are dealing with that if head on, and as John is and as Elisa is, are exciting. And so I actually have a question to John. If you had this great system that let you locate yourself in this unsheltered person project in Seattle, in this larger conversation, how would it help the people that Elisa is serving?
Okay, well, the people that Elisa are serving are not only the served agencies, but also the people who are participating. Ultimately, the people who are on the streets that need help. So I think it helps by bringing better awareness to the people that can make a difference, and also the individuals themselves where they can see themselves in context with their peers. And I don't have time, and we don't have the space to dive into that, but you're absolutely right. It has to be not just for the leaders that can affect the change, but also a better awareness of the individuals that make up that base, to know that they're not alone, that they're not out in left field, that there are a lot of people that need help. But what am I trying to say? I guess that better awareness is going to help lift the possibilities up for everyone. I'm sorry if I'm not making myself clear, but I believe we have the tools to make a difference. We have to be willing to listen and to not be afraid of the conversation, and we'll get there.
Mm. Great.
Amen, John. I would say it's always inspiring to be with a group of people who are like-minded and similarly inspired to make things better in our communities across the country, around the world. And so what I'm taking is some new partners and great ideas that they're coming with of how we can make the most of this work across a growing field.
What surprised me was how much I learned, how much I found links between different sessions, and how much I learned about my problem from sessions that was about entirely different topics. So things like prototyping and things actually were relevant to how to get people engaged in conferences from a distance. So it's useful having lots of different things to dip into.
Would anyone else like to share anything about something they learned? The next section would be any suggestions for how we can do this better next time.
Okay, I'll make one suggestion. It's purely a user interface suggestion. I really liked this format. It worked. I find it worked really well. Met some new people, found out some good stuff. But I noticed that I am jumping all over my screen, having to deal with Zoom on top of the agenda, on top of the note-taking document, and jumping back and forth and covering up the video. And it's probably a bit of a problem in using multiple services that each have their own interface. But it sure would be nice to figure out a way to, position the video windows in one corner of the screen, position the document in another corner of the screen, have a little room left over for going off to a website that somebody just mentioned. And that's basically a GUI.
Great advice.
Issue.
I think that Zoom is going to evolve in that direction, but at the present time, it has to be outside of the browser. And 3 years ago, we used another tool that you could put the video right into the browser. It wasn't as good as Zoom, so we had to choose. And this is the area that I'm hoping that they will change their technology a bit so that people don't have to jump. So I think that for now, going to keep an eye open for that, but for now, this is with us for the foreseeable future.
Well, that actually brings up a comment I just throw out for people. In the early days of the internet, everything was about connecting people and interoperability and making connections. Since the internet went commercial, it's become all about return on investment and audience building, and in essence, reinventing walled gardens. And that's a problem we're seeing in the civic space. In the old days, people would try to build gateways between an email list and a news group. And Usenet News was a wonderful civic technology that's sort of been eclipsed by Facebook. And paying attention to interoperability and connectivity seems to be a really important thing right now, because otherwise what we're doing is basically just setting up more closed communities that at a time when we're trying to connect people. And that's something I think we need to be very careful about.
Makes great sense. Thank you for sharing that. And for anyone that hasn't had a chance to share anything they'd like to add about something they'd like to see next time? I know Katie and I have been talking, and the of presenters in a panel discussion, and then breaking out in breakout rooms after that to potentially discuss whatever people have heard. That'll still allow for the interaction, and it'll also ensure that there's a large number of people to hear a presentation. And if there's a large number of people to hear a presentation, the presenters will be able to spend more time making something quite excellent. And then we can share that with an even broader audience. So we're going to be experimenting with different formats on a weekly and bi-weekly basis. There'll be different events that probably last about 40 minutes every Friday. And people that are here, you've come for one event, but you also now have access to all the other events that we continue to host here. That's at fabric.QiqoChat.com. And you'll also see, I'll share my screen with you. I want to invite you to share your organization's blog with us in case we're not already aggregating it in the 870 news organizations. They're essentially blogs of nonprofits and startups in the civic tech space. We welcome someone that would like to help us design it more beautifully, but right now it is working great. It's just dozens and dozens of blog posts created by all the people who are members here. We just want to create a way where it's easy to hear what's going on across the whole civic tech field. And additionally, there's a Slack community that you can join. Got about 180 people in it now. The live events will be posted right here. And also there's a phone hotline that's just going to be open 24/7. If you're familiar with an open space format, you essentially say, I want to talk about such and such. Here's my phone number. And you say how long you're available. And then people are going to see that you're available when they just come to read the news, and then they'll actually call you. They won't know your phone number. We'll keep that private, but people will just dial in the hotline and then your extension. And so that'll be able to connect people one-on-one for very short conversations. Just keep it 10 minutes to respect people's time. And we'll see where those kinds of connections can go. But now that you've participated, this is what we're building to continue to connect all of us together. And we welcome your feedback for how to make these tools better. So,
quick question about that. Is the QiqoChat feed available as email or RSS? Or do you have to go to the website?
Right now, it's just available on the website. I'll write that down as a suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, because I'm going to suggest that my experience is that if you have to go to a website to read something, people don't.
I appreciate that. Excellent.
I'm pretty sure I won't be going back because I've got enough, stuff. I've got hundreds of email lists coming to me.
Perfect. Well, we're going to send you plenty of email. I'll let you unsubscribe from it. Sounds like you'll love it. So okay. That is all the time we have today. But I will remain on here. We'll stop the recording, and people are welcome to share any other feedback they have. And I really appreciate everyone's time, all the presenters who worked hard to think through what they were going to say today. We had over 110 people RSVP and check in at some point throughout the day. So this is more than double what we had 3 years ago. And I think Katie and I, now that she's on the team, are going to continue to build this momentum and make it bigger. So this is exciting for us, and we'll see what happens next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thanks, Lucas. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.